When you keep your composure while others lose theirs, there are moments in life when everything around you starts to feel tense. A conversation becomes heated. Someone raises their voice. Tempers begin rising in the room. You can feel the energy changing. And in moments like that, most people react almost instantly. Voices get louder. People interrupt each other. Someone tries to win the argument. Another person tries to defend themselves. The situation becomes emotional very quickly. But every now and then, there's someone who does something different. They stay calm. They listen. They don't raise their voice. They don't rush to react. And while everything around them becomes chaotic, they remain composed. If you've ever been that person, you know something about those moments that most people don't realize. Staying composed when others lose their temper is not easy. It takes effort. It takes awareness. And sometimes it takes a surprising amount of restraint. Because in those situations, you feel the same emotions everyone else feels. You feel frustration. You feel the urge to defend yourself. You feel the urge to react. But instead of letting those emotions control you, you hold them back. And the truth is, that kind of emotional control can feel exhausting sometimes. You might even walk away from those moments wondering if staying calm was the right choice. You might wonder if people interpreted your calmness as weakness. You might wonder if you should have pushed back harder. But here's something most people misunderstand about composure. Remaining calm when emotions are high is not weakness. It's one of the clearest signs of emotional strength a person can develop. Because when someone else loses control, the easiest thing to do is follow them. The easiest thing is to match their energy. To raise your voice. To defend yourself immediately. To fight back emotionally. That's the natural reaction. But composure requires something different. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. And most importantly, it requires the ability to see the situation clearly while emotions are rising. And that's something very few people can do in the moment. Most people only recognize what happened after the situation is over, after the argument. After the tension fades, after the emotions settle. But the person who stays composed during the moment itself is doing something rare. They are creating space between the situation and the reaction. They are choosing control instead of impulse. And that choice changes everything. Because when one person remains calm in a heated moment, the entire dynamic shifts. Think about it. When two people argue, the situation usually escalates. Emotion feeds emotion. But when one person stays steady, the argument often loses momentum. The emotional fire has nothing to spread to. This doesn't mean the situation becomes easy. Sometimes the other person is still angry. Sometimes they still want conflict. But your composure changes your role in the situation. Instead of becoming part of the chaos, you become the person who stabilizes it. And that ability is incredibly powerful, not because it allows you to dominate others, but because it allows you to remain in control of yourself. That's where real emotional mastery begins, not in calm moments, but in difficult ones. Anyone can appear calm when life is easy. Anyone can appear patient when nothing is challenging them, but true composure is revealed when emotions are high, when pressure is present. When people around you are reacting strongly, those are the moments where emotional discipline is tested. And if you've ever managed to stay composed in those situations, there's something important you should recognize. You're developing a level of self-control that most people never fully reach. Because emotional mastery isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about understanding them. It's about recognizing what you feel without letting those feelings immediately control your behavior. That kind of awareness changes how you experience difficult situations. Instead of being pulled into every emotional reaction around you, you begin observing what's happening. You start noticing the patterns. You notice when someone else is reacting out of frustration. You notice when a conversation is becoming defensive. You notice when emotions are starting to rise. And that awareness gives you something powerful. Choice. The ability to decide how you respond instead of reacting automatically. This is where emotional restraint becomes strength. Because the moment you realize you have a choice, the situation changes. You are no longer trapped inside the emotion of the moment. You are capable of stepping back internally. You are capable of choosing your response carefully. And when you do that consistently, something remarkable begins to happen. Your presence itself starts influencing situations. People feel the steadiness you bring into the room. Your calmness creates space for conversations to slow down. Your composure prevents situations from escalating as easily. And sometimes, without saying much at all, you become the person others look toward when emotions are high. Not because you're trying to lead, but because steadiness naturally stands out in chaotic moments. But there's another important truth about emotional composure that people rarely talk about. It doesn't always feel good in the moment. Sometimes it feels frustrating. Sometimes it feels like you're the only one holding things together. Sometimes it feels like you're carrying the emotional weight of the situation, and that can be tiring. But over time, something begins to change. You start realizing that staying composed isn't something you do for other people, you do it for yourself. Because every time you choose composure over reaction, you protect your peace, you protect your clarity, you protect your ability to think clearly in moments where many people lose that ability. And that protection becomes incredibly valuable. Because life will always present difficult moments. There will always be people who react emotionally. There will always be situations that feel tense. But the person who learns to remain steady in those moments gains an advantage that goes far beyond winning an argument. They gain control over their own state of mind. And that is one of the most powerful forms of strength a person can develop. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where others are losing their composure, remember something. Staying calm in that moment is not a small thing. It is a sign that you're developing emotional mastery. It is evidence that you're learning to control yourself instead of being controlled by the moment. And over time, that ability becomes one of the most valuable strengths you carry into every part of your life. Because the person who can remain steady when emotions run high is someone who cannot be easily shaken. And in a world where many people react before they think, that kind of composure quietly sets you apart. If today's message gave you something to think about, or even just a spark of strength, make sure to subscribe. Join our community and let's grow stronger together, one Stoic step at a time.